this, but let's take a look at what to look for in the coming weeks and months as we head into the fourth year of this bull market. So as
most people think holding crypto automatically makes them early, but that's not true, because the truth is 99% of XRP and XLM holders have no idea what they're really holding. They think they're buying a ticket to financial freedom, but what they're actually holding is access to the backbone of a financial revolution. And here's the painful part. Most of them will completely miss it. Let me explain. Every bull run brings in millions of new investors chasing the next big thing. They scroll through Twitter, see influencers talking about utility tokens and ISO 20022 coins, and they buy. But very few of them understand what they just bought. They don't study how XRP is being used as a bridge asset between fiat currencies, or how XLM is helping banks and payment platforms send money instantly across borders. They just buy the token, hoping the price goes up. And that's the problem, because buying XRP and XLM for profit is not the same thing as understanding what they're built to do. XRP and XLM aren't meme coins. They're not built for hype or speculation. They are the pipes, the invisible rails of a new financial system that's being designed right now, right under everyone's noses. That's why only 1% of holders will actually benefit from what's coming. Because that 1% understands that this isn't about getting lucky. It's about being positioned before the system flips. Here's something most people miss. When you move money today, you're not actually moving money. You're moving messages. If you send $10,000 from New York to London, what really happens is your bank sends a message through SWIFT, and the banks on both ends adjust ledgers later. That later can take days. Now imagine a system where that entire process, the message and the money, happens simultaneously in seconds. That's where XRP and XLM come in. XRP, built by Ripple, it's designed for liquidity on demand. Banks can use XRP to bridge any currency in the world instantly, without pre-funded accounts. It's solving a multi-trillion-dollar liquidity problem. XLM, built by the Stellar Development Foundation, it's focused on inclusion. It connects smaller banks, fintechs, and payment platforms globally. It's solving the last-mile problem, getting money where traditional systems can't reach. So, while people are distracted by meme coins and headlines, these two networks are being integrated into the foundation of tomorrow's finance. The power isn't in speculation, it's in the infrastructure. If XRP and XLM are that powerful, why won't everyone holding them benefit? Because most holders will sell too early, too emotionally, or for the wrong reasons. They'll panic during market dips. They'll chase other coins when hype moves elsewhere. They'll lose patience right before the transformation happens. They won't realize that the world doesn't adopt a new financial system overnight. It takes years of testing, regulation, integration, and compliance. It takes real partnerships, not tweets. By the time the transformation is complete, when cross-border payments are fully tokenized, when on-demand liquidity becomes standard, when central banks and corporations start using these rails at scale, most retail holders will already be gone. That's why only 1% of holders will benefit. Not because they're luckier, but because they understand the mission. Here's something to think about. When Ripple first started talking about building a global payment network, people laughed. When Stellar said it would connect the M-Bank through blockchain, people rolled their eyes. And yet, quietly, behind the scenes, both networks kept building, signing partnerships, testing corridors, and developing compliance frameworks that align with global standards. Most of this progress doesn't make flashy headlines, but it's happening right now. Every integration, every regulatory green light, every pilot test adds another brick to the foundation. And those who understand that are the 1%. They're not just holding, they're positioned. Being early isn't about buying low and selling high. Being early is about seeing the shift before the world does. Right now, that shift is happening quietly in the background. Governments, banks, and payment companies are digitizing their systems, connecting through new messaging standards like ISO 20022, and preparing for interoperability, a world where money moves like data. XRP and XLM were designed for that exact purpose. That's not speculation. That's not maybe one day. That's literally their entire reason for existing. So when you think about the 1%, Don't think of it as the top of a pyramid, think of it as the people who understood the assignment. They're the ones who knew that the world doesn't change overnight, but it does change. And when it does, it rewards those who were patient enough to see the big picture. If you're holding XRP or XLM right now, take a deep breath and remember this. You're not just holding coins, you're holding infrastructure. Most won't see it until it's too late. They'll only notice when the new system is already live, when prices have already moved, and when the opportunity has already passed. But if you understand what's being built, if you truly get why these networks exist, then you're already ahead of 99% of people in this market. That's why only 1% of holders will actually benefit, because only 1% have the patience, conviction, and understanding to see it through to the end. Let's get one thing straight. The real power of XRP and XLM isn't in their price charts. It's in the systems they're quietly rebuilding from the ground up. Most people think crypto is just about tokens and trading, but that's like thinking the internet was just about websites in the 1990s. The internet wasn't the product, it was the infrastructure that changed how everything else worked. And that's exactly what XRP and XLM are doing for money. If money is the bloodstream of the global economy, liquidity is its oxygen. And right now, the global financial system is starved of it. Every time a bank wants to send money across borders, it has to lock up billions of dollars in what's called nostro vostro accounts, pre-funded pools of cash sitting idle around the world. This is a massive, inefficient mess. XRP's purpose is to fix that. Ripple built XRP as a bridge asset, a universal translator between currencies. Instead of locking up cash in foreign accounts, a bank can hold XRP, send it instantly across the network, and convert it into any local currency in seconds. Imagine Bank A in Japan wants to pay Bank B in Brazil. Traditionally, that's a 2 or 3 day process involving multiple intermediaries, each taking a fee. With XRP, it happens in 3 seconds with costs reduced by up to 90%. That's not theoretical, that's already been tested and proven in real corridors across Asia, Europe, and Latin America. The true power of XRP lies in this liquidity on demand model. It unlocks trillions of dollars trapped in legacy systems, reduces settlement risk, and allows banks to operate globally without friction. And here's what most people miss. This isn't just for banks. Corporates, remittance companies, and even governments can use the same rails to move money faster and cheaper than ever before. That's why the 1% of holders understand something the rest don't. XRP isn't built to make you rich from speculation. It's built to make the world's financial plumbing run efficiently. And when that system finally flips, the value of controlling liquidity itself becomes unimaginable. Now let's talk about Stellar, XLM. The other side of this coin. If XRP is about global liquidity, XLM is about universal access. There are over 1.4 billion people in the world who are still unbanked. They don't have access to financial services. They can't send or receive money internationally. They can't hold digital assets. They can't build credit or participate in the global economy. XLM was built to change that. Instead of focusing on big banks and institutions, Stellar's mission is to connect the people and businesses that traditional finance leaves behind. It allows local payment companies, fintech startups, and even mobile apps to build on top of its blockchain, creating a web of digital connections that reach the last mile. When you send money through Stellar, it's not just crypto moving. It's real-world value, tied to fiat, stablecoins, or tokenized assets, moving across borders instantly. And here's the secret sauce. Stellar's design is simple, cheap, and scalable. Transactions cost fractions of a cent, settlement takes seconds, and every payment is transparent and verifiable. That's why so many payment companies, NGOs, and financial institutions have quietly started building on it. They're not speculating on price, they're leveraging Stellar to actually move money and connect communities. In other words, XLM is creating a bridge between the old financial world and the next one. Here's where things get really interesting. While XRP and XLM serve different audiences, they're both solving the same global problem. Money doesn't move fast enough, cheap enough, or equally enough. XRP handles the top-down revolution, helping large institutions and cross-border payment providers modernize global liquidity. XLM handles the bottom-up revolution, enabling financial inclusion, remittances, and access for people outside the traditional system. Both are building the rails that will eventually merge into one global network of value. This isn't competition, it's cooperation through evolution. As governments roll out CBDCs, as banks adopt tokenized assets, and as remittance networks connect through blockchain, XRP and XLM are the invisible infrastructure underneath it all. What's happening now is something I call the quiet phase. You won't see it trending on social media, but integration is everywhere. Payment providers are testing XRP for real-time settlements. NGOs and fintechs are using XLM for aid distribution and microfinance. Developers are tokenizing assets on Stellar. Ripple is expanding liquidity corridors globally. These are the building blocks of adoption, and they're not flashy, but they're permanent. Once a financial institution or network integrates XRP or XLM, they don't go back to slow, outdated systems. And that's where the power lies. Every integration increases network utility. Every corridor adds liquidity. Every use case makes the ecosystem harder to ignore. That's how real adoption works. Slowly, silently, then suddenly. For XRP and XLM holders, the lesson is clear. You're not investing in hype, you're investing in infrastructure. And infrastructure always takes time to show its true value. Think about the internet again. The early days were full of skepticism. People didn't understand what TCP/IP meant or why it mattered. But the few who did, the builders, the believers, the ones who stayed patient, ended up shaping the next generation of wealth. That's the phase XRP and XLM are in right now. The foundations are being laid. The partnerships are forming. The corridors are opening. The technology is being refined for global scale. The 1% who truly understand this aren't looking for a quick flip. They're positioning themselves for the financial reset that's quietly unfolding. The real power of XRP and XLM lies in what they're designed to replace: the outdated, inefficient, exclusionary systems that hold the world back. This isn't about tokens or price action. It's about infrastructure, interoperability, and access. Those who truly grasp that, who see XRP as the liquidity layer and XLM as the inclusion layer, are the ones who'll benefit when the world's financial system finally turns digital. Because when the new rails are live and the old systems fade out, those holding the infrastructure will hold the power. Let's be honest. Most people in crypto aren't investors. They're spectators. They scroll through charts, chase headlines, follow influencers, and convince themselves that owning a few coins makes them part of the revolution. But the truth is, owning something doesn't mean you understand it. That's why 99% of XRP and XLM holders will never fully benefit. Because they're waiting for price while the 1% are watching for structure. The 99% panic when prices dip. They move in and out of projects like tourists, chasing whatever coin is trending that week. But the 1%, they think in cycles, not days. They know that infrastructure-based projects like XRP and XLM move on timelines aligned with regulatory approval, institutional adoption, and technological maturity, not social media hype. The 1% understand that when a new financial system is being built, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly through years of testing and integration. So when they see volatility, they don't panic. They study, they accumulate, they hold through noise because they know the signal is coming. The average investor buys because someone said, "This coin will 100x." The 1% buys because they understand what a token actually does. They know that XRP is engineered for liquidity on demand, the backbone for cross-border settlements. They know that XLM is designed for inclusion and accessibility, the rails for microtransactions, aid transfers, and digital remittances. They don't buy based on emotion, they buy based on architecture. And that's what separates them. Because when utility finally becomes the driving force of value, when the market stops rewarding hype and starts rewarding infrastructure, those who understand the mission will be standing exactly where they need to be. The 99% base their decisions on emotion, fear, greed, and speculation. The 1% focus on adoption metrics, integration trends, and regulatory milestones. They track corridors opened by RippleNet. They follow Stellar's pilot programs in underbanked regions. They read between the lines when banks start testing blockchain interoperability. To them, Real progress isn't about price spikes, it's about traction. Because when the systems of value finally flip from traditional rails to blockchain rails, price will follow automatically. That's the secret the 1% understand. Value isn't created by hype, it's unlocked by adoption. Here's a perspective shift. The 99% think of crypto as an asset. The 1% see it as infrastructure. They know XRP and XLM aren't competing with each other. They're completing each other. One's building liquidity for institutions, the other's enabling access for the world's unbanked. Together, they're rewiring how money moves, from billion-dollar transfers to microtransactions in remote villages. The 1% don't ask, when will this moon? They ask, when will the system flip? And while everyone else is waiting for a bull run, they're waiting for integration to reach critical mass. Because they know once institutions, governments, and fintechs are fully embedded in the system, there's no going back. The 99% treat patience like a punishment. The 1% treat it like a strategy. They know wealth transfers don't happen in hours, they happen over phases. They know XRP and XLM's true potential won't be realized until after the infrastructure is global, regulated, and standardized. So while others chase volatility, they accumulate conviction. They don't let impatience steal their position. They're not trying to time the market, they're trying to outlast it. Because when the floodgates of institutional liquidity finally open, it won't be retail investors who move first. It'll be banks, corporations, and governments that need these systems to function. And the only people who will truly benefit are those who stayed ready. In every financial revolution, there's a small group of people who see the shift before everyone else. Not because they're smarter, but because they're patient, informed, and grounded. That's the 1%. They understand that XRP isn't a bet, it's infrastructure. And XLM isn't a coin, it's access. They know that one day people won't even talk about these tokens the way we do now, because they'll simply be the rails everything runs on. So when that day comes, when adoption becomes reality, the 1% won't need to chase hype. They'll already be sitting in the system they believed in all along. At some point, every investor faces a moment that defines their journey. For XRP and XLM holders, that moment isn't about price, it's about faith meeting function. Because one day soon, the charts you've been watching won't just be numbers anymore. They'll represent something much bigger: the transition from speculation to utility. And here's the truth, 99% will miss it. They'll sell too early, lose conviction, or simply fail to see what's unfolding right in front of them. But the 1%, they'll recognize it instantly. They'll understand that the movement they believed in, borderless value transfer, inclusive finance, and digital liquidity, has finally arrived. For years, projects like XRP and XLM have been building in silence. While everyone else was chasing meme coins and pump cycles, these networks were forming partnerships with central banks, payment giants, and humanitarian organizations. You see, XRP and XLM were never designed to be speculative playgrounds. They were engineered to be the plumbing of the next global financial era. So when the world starts using blockchain not as an experiment but as a foundation, when transactions happen faster, cheaper, and across borders seamlessly, that's when the 1% will finally see the vision become reality. They won't need hype. They'll have history. When this shift happens, there won't be fireworks. No sudden moon moment or viral tweet. It'll start quietly. Banks flipping switches, governments launching stablecoin pilots, payment corridors coming online. And while everyone else is distracted by noise, those who held on through the silence will be the first to benefit. Because that's how revolutions begin, in whispers, not in shouts. If you're part of this space, remind yourself what you actually hold. You're not holding a meme or a gamble. You're holding the backbone of a system that could move trillions every single day. And when people say, but it's taking too long, remember, so did the internet, electricity, and every other system that changed the world. Patience isn't weakness here, it's foresight. And when the time comes, the 1% won't need to brag or post charts. They'll simply live in the new economy they once believed was impossible. So if you're still holding XRP and XLM, keep your eyes open. Because one morning, you'll wake up and realize the world's financial engine just flipped to the network you've been quietly believing in all along.